Hello everyone, welcome to another Narc Survivor live video. This time, as you can see, I'm at the beach here in Bali. Actually sitting in the sea right now. Let me just flip it around. Water's a bit cold, but it's not so bad once you get in. It's a sunny day, so it's not too cold. I'm just relaxing on the beach, taking a break. I think I did do a video in the sea before as well. I may have been in Sri Lanka. I haven't done it for a while, so I thought while I was laying in here, why not get on here and do a live video in the sea. Narc Survivor in the sea. What a place to do a video. But yeah, it's a beautiful beach. It took me a long walk just to find this patch. As you know, I don't really like swimming around too many people. I like to find just a quiet spot where I can relax. So I came down here. It's nice and peaceful here. And the sea is quite peaceful too. Quite strong waves at the back, but it calms down as it gets to here. Thought we'd have a bit of fun just to start off this video. Laying in the sea, relaxing, living our best lives. This is what we should all be doing. Not thinking about the narcissist too much. Don't let them get to your head. Because of course, as we know, that's what they were going to do. Now I'm just going to come out of the sea for a little bit, because there are some waves coming in. Of course, I don't want to drop my phone in the sea. I'm just going to come over here now, sit down in the sand, or lay down rather. Have a nice lay down here. Maybe use my bag as a pillow. This bag's my pillow now. All right. I think we're ready to go. Let's do this. Laying down in the sand in Bali. Bali. Bali, Bali, Bali. Beautiful blue sky. When the narcissist realizes that they ruined something good. It's interesting, you know, because there's a lot of videos out there talking about this. There's a lot of videos talking about How when the narcissist realizes that they messed everything up, they ruined something good. If you've dealt with a narcissist, you will know that never happens. They never realize that they ruined something good. The narcissist is only present. They're only accessible, available to you if they see an opportunity to evoke admiration and adoration from you. That's all that they're there for, is to get your validation, for you to make them feel good, to validate this false image that they've presented to you. And you're just meant to sit there and applaud them and just say, wow, what a wonderful person you are. You're incredible. You're just a perfect angel, a good Samaritan, such a charitable person. Even though that may completely conflict with reality, and if anything, they've just ruined your life. No, you're still meant to go along with the agenda. It doesn't matter what they do, it doesn't matter how much destruction they cause. In their minds, they're still perfect. In their minds, there's still nothing wrong with them. And if you think that there is, then in their minds you are attacking them. And they will then defend themselves by further attacking and destroying you. Because no matter what they do, even if it's like, I don't know if those of you have seen the cartoon. I used to love cartoons when I was a kid. I always watched Cartoon Network every day. And one of my favorite cartoons was Dexter's Laboratory. Those of you who remember that show. The narcissist is kind of like Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory. You know, you got this boy genius, Dexter, and he builds like this laboratory as an extension of his bedroom in his parents' house. And then always Dee Dee manages to find the way in. Dee Dee is his sister. And she always comes into his laboratory that he spent so much time building. And then she's just like, ooh, what does this button do? And then she pushes it. And then it just blows something up. Everything just goes to bits. That's essentially what the narcissist is like. And you can try and talk to them, trying to explain things to them, like what they've done, the things that they have caused. You'll never get through. They're at such a low level of consciousness and awareness. They're constantly operating at the vibration of fear or shame. And yet they're trying to do everything they can to avoid reflecting on that, which is why they may also often be in a state of desire, anger, and especially pride. They're very prideful. So they're very proud of themselves and their accomplishments. They don't see anything wrong with who they are or what they're doing. They're never looking back in the past and thinking, oh, I could have done that better. Or maybe I should fix that. Maybe I should make amends. Maybe I should improve. No, they just leave all of that in the past, just sweep it under the rug, forget about it, and they just focus on now. And even then, when they're focusing on now, it's not actually anything for real. It's just how do they present this ideal outer image? How do they make it look good? So essentially, it's like spraying shit with perfume, trying to make it smell good, but it's really just shit. And I hope that this little bit of swearing doesn't mess up the algorithm, because I want this to get some views. I want it to get out there so that people can hear it. But yeah, I'm quite passionate about what I'm saying, and I really want this to get through to you so that you really understand it. That is quite literally what they're doing. They are spraying S words with perfume. So it looks good, it smells good, but underneath it is corrupt, it's rotten, it's foul, it's no good at all, because they never went back to acknowledge the things that they did and also the things that were done to them, because that should be acknowledged too. They never went back to look at any of that and to clean it up, to clean up the mess that was left behind. And that's how, when you're dealing with them, that's exactly what it's like. That's exactly the experience you get. You get something that looks good on the outside, but inside it's rotten. They are like a rotten apple, rotten on the inside. On the outside, the apple might look good. It might look fresh, juicy, edible. But you take a bite of it and let me know how you feel. It will make you sick. It might even have worms inside that apple. And that's exactly what they're like. They look good on the outside, but the most important part is what's inside. Now, what is a good sign of... Now we talk about apples, I'm getting a bit hungry yet. But yeah, on the topic of apples, what is the sign of a healthy apple with a good core? That would be someone who is more willing to take accountability. So if something goes wrong, instead of them being wrapped up in this delusional, grandiose fantasy, they can become aware of it. They can acknowledge it. And they feel compelled, they feel desire to make things right, to make positive changes. But it's never like that with narcissists. They are rotten inside. So they're never going to think that they ruined something good. They're never going to think that way. They're never going to look at it in that way. It's always going to be you. You are always going to be at fault. They haven't got the internal strength to resolve anything or to take accountability for anything. They're shame-based people who are doing everything they can to avoid reflecting on their shame. So essentially, they are a rotten apple. Looks good on the outside. Maybe they cleaned the outside, they polished it nicely, so it looks like a nice shiny red apple. But on the inside, there's all of that shame, all of that trauma. So on the inside, they are rotten. And that's why when you get involved with them, once you've been around them for long enough, you get the experience that you get. You get a rotten experience. And it just feels disgusting. It's just not a pleasant experience at all. Because they haven't dealt with the inside. They haven't dealt with their minds, their heart. These things need to be cleansed, purified. But that's the problem with these narcissists, because they operate with a false self. Then there's really not too much they can do about it. I mean, first they would have to accept who they actually are, instead of operating with a grandiose false self. Because how can you fix something if you can't even acknowledge that there's a problem? First you got to accept, all right, I am a rotten apple. I am rotten from the inside. I mean, that's what we all had to do on our journey. We had to accept, all right, yeah, we've been abused by narcissists. We've experienced trauma. The first step, the first stage of our healing is to accept that, and to accept the part that we played in it. Take responsibility for what got us into that mess, for what got us involved with them, And then by doing that, we are acknowledging ourselves, our true selves. The narcissist doesn't want to do that. They disown any part of themselves that they don't like. So anything bad about them, their negative traits, their anger, their irritability, their delusions, the way they just blame you for everything and they never take accountability, all of their faults, weaknesses, mistakes, they disown all of that and they assign it to you. They act like that's nothing to do with them. So essentially what they're doing is they're discarding themselves. They're doing away with themselves. They want nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with who they are. Which is very bad. It's very damaging. Extremely damaging. They just split themselves off. And that's their own choice. They make the choice to do that. I mean, it's one thing if someone has so much control over you, they dictate every move, every action in your life. They condense you down, they contain you. And then your personality, it splits off and you're not your authentic self. That's one thing. Because you've been taught to do that, you can still unlearn it, you can get yourself back. But with them, they've made a conscious choice to split all of that off. To become something else when that's not really them. They made a deliberate and conscious choice to do that. And that's why it's so damaging. And that's why they may never be able to get that back, because they weren't brainwashed, they weren't indoctrinated. They indoctrinated themselves, they gaslighted themselves. And that's why you'll never get through to them. They'll never realize that they ruined something good. They're never going to look at it that way. They're never going to think about it like that. Now, someone who maybe just has narcissistic traits, that's a different story. You may be able to get through to them. I mean, typically, if it's someone with just narcissistic traits, all you really have to do, I mean, it's not rocket science. You just have to approach them, explain the situation to them, explain, all right, you did this, I'm not happy with that, and sort it out, do better, and they'll get it, they'll understand, they'll listen to you, they'll make positive changes, they will improve. That's all you have to do with someone who just has narcissistic traits. That's a completely different story. As long as it's only a few traits, maybe 2 or 3, and it's not pervasive, they're not completely maladaptive. But when it's someone who has this disorder, they're not going to listen to you, you're not going to get through, they're not going to understand where you're coming from, because in their minds they're special, they're arrogant and entitled. You try and blame them for anything, you try and hold them accountable, they're going to see that as an attack, and they are then going to defend themselves in their minds by attacking you, destroying you. But they will never think that they ruined something good. They're never going to look at it that way. That's not how a narcissist is going to think. They might accept, okay, yeah, there was something good. There was something good and it was ruined. But that was on you. That was your fault. That's how they're going to think. No narcissist is ever going to look at themselves and think that they did something wrong. If they were ever pushed into a corner and had to accept that they did something wrong, they would shift the blame. They would find a way to justify it. They would say, okay, yeah, I did that because you made me do it. You drove me to do that. I had no other choice. So even then, they're still not accepting it, which means they're never actually going to accept it. They're just going to deflect it. They're going to find ways around it so that they don't have to take accountability. They don't have to deal with the shame. They don't have to deal with the consequences of their actions. So you're never going to be able to get through to them. They're never going to understand They're never going to look at it that way. And typically, if they've ruined something good, well, they ruined you. They ruined your life. An empath. They ruined your potential, your success. I mean, that's just going to be too overwhelming for them. If you're a valuable person, they'll never be able to accept that, because how could they ever compensate for it? How could they make things right? How could they make amends? They can't. There's nothing that they could do. I mean, if it's something small, if it was just a minor issue where it's like they ruined something and they could quite easily make up for it, they could replace whatever they've destroyed, then they might just do that. They might not accept that it was their fault. They'll just do it and they'll just throw it back in your face. And they'll be like, oh, look, I did this. They'll hold it against you. They'll make you feel bad. They'll guilt trip you. But when we're talking about something greater, something that's actually of value, something that's actually worth something that's actually good, and they destroyed it, what are they supposed to do? They can't make up for it. They can't compensate for it. There's just nothing they can do. All they can do really is lie to you and future fake, string you along in this never-ending fantasy. But nothing's ever going to happen. Because the reality is that, in case you haven't caught on yet, you are far greater than them. And that's why they're so hyper-competitive and they triangulate you. They always compare you with other people for that reason. Because it's very overwhelming, it's intimidating for them that you are you and they are them. So they have to try and distort it, they have to try and twist things and gaslight you. They have to rearrange everything around. It can't be based on reality, because the reality is that you are far superior to them. And they know that. So that's why they have to twist everything around. They have to gaslight you for that reason. Because what else can they do? How can they make up for that? How can they resolve it? They're going to do whatever is in their best interest, whatever is good for them. They're going to look at it like, all right, if I take accountability for this, if I accept, all right, I did that, I messed things up, they're going to look at it like, where does it go from there? What are they supposed to do after that? What can they do? It's just going to leave them in a very difficult situation that they can't get out of, that they can't improve. So they're just going to be stuck. They might as well just take themselves out, because essentially that's what they're doing. That is suicide. If they've ruined something valuable, something good, that's essentially just suicide for a narcissist. Because they can never measure up. What could they ever do? How are they meant to improve things for you? I'd honestly just forget about the fantasy for a moment, forget about their grandiose delusions. Let's talk about this in reality. Just accept the person that they are. What you see right in front of you, their capabilities, their means. Look at the damage they've caused to you, to your life. Look at the problems that they've caused. Look at who they are. What are they supposed to do for you? What are they supposed to do? You really think they can improve things for you? They can change your life? You may think that because you're just thinking about it from your own point of view, from yourself. Yes, you could improve things for them. You changed their life, you upgraded them. But just because you can do that, it doesn't mean that they can. And that's why when they got involved with you, they manipulated you, they used a false character, they lured you into this false reality, this make-believe world where they're this perfect person. They're everything you'd be waiting for, everything you could need. And just because they mess everything up, just because they destroy the relationship, they ruin a future, doesn't mean that they don't expect you to continue going along with a narrative that they've created in their minds. They still expect you to go along with that. That's why they picked you, that's why they targeted you. That is the position that they assigned you for. And they don't ever want that to end. They want to live in an eternal fantasy for life. They always want to feel like they're a perfect person. I mean, naturally, inevitably, things do go wrong. And when things do go wrong, they want to be able to punish you for everything you saw wrong with them, so that they can then feel powerful at the very least, if they can't feel desirable and attractive. But ruining something good, no narcissist is ever going to accept that. A good person might accept that they ruined something good, because if they're a good person, they can probably do something about it. They can improve things. Well, what is a rotten person supposed to do about that? I mean, think about it. They can't even fix themselves. They're rotten from the inside. If they were so capable, if they were so great, you think they would have sorted themselves out first. You think at the very least they would be able to regulate their own emotions. They can't even do that. So what are they meant to do for you? They can't do nothing. They can't do anything. All they can do is lie, manipulate, future fake. That's all they can do. That's all they've ever done. And that's all they're ever going to do. And that's all you're ever going to get from them. You're not going to get anything else. The best you'll ever get from a narcissist is manipulation and illusion. And funny enough, up until this point, where you're now watching this video, I'm sure that's all you ever got. I'm sure that's all you ever received from a narcissist. Am I right or am I right? Got a coconut on the beach. There's writing on this coconut. Nothing better than some coconut water fresh out of a coconut. If you're wondering what that was, it's not a UFO, don't worry, the aliens haven't landed. It's just paragliding. That's something I've never done, although I wouldn't mind doing that one day. But yeah, coconut water fresh out of a coconut. So refreshing. The coconuts here in Bali are actually quite bitter, but in a good way. It's a nice intense, bitter, nutty taste, which I like. Often when I get like a fruit tea, I like to have it with low sugar and not so much ice, so that you really get that full taste of it. And that's what it's like with the coconuts. The coconut water here, it's not too sweet, it's more of a bitter taste. Or at least from what I've tried so far. A lot of helicopters here. I can't even see anything on the phone now because it's so bright and sunny. I remember this happened before. I think it was in Sri Lanka when I did a live video, and it's so bright I can't see anything on the screen. I want to read the live chat. It's quite frustrating because you can see me and hear me, but I can't read what you're saying to me. And of course, that's a very important part for me. Wait, I can see a little bit here. From what I can see, we do have 157 live viewers. If you're enjoying this video so far, give it a thumbs up. I came out here to this beach here in Bali. I came all this way because I knew I was going to make a nice video for you on the beach. When I come to the beach, I don't know what it is. I just can't relax just like everyone else. It just puts me in the zone even more. But I'm sure many of you, the narcissist ruined something good for you in your life. And they didn't realize it. They didn't want to realize it. They didn't want to know. And I'm sure they crushed your hopes and dreams. Ow! I keep getting bitten. Well, not bitten, but I think it's these crabs. They get me with their claws. Yeah, these. Or is it the fly? I don't even know what it is. Something was happening anyway. But yeah, I know what it's like. These narcissists, they string you along, they make you believe in this future. And they get you to invest all of your time, energy, effort, money and resources into them. And you're thinking, all right, this is going to pay off. Something's going to come out of it. It's going to be worth it. And so you invest all of your time, your energy, your effort, your money and resources. And then what happens? It gets you nowhere. It's like stocks and shares. You invested into a low value investment. So you had all of this value that you put into it, but then you didn't get a return. And everything that you invested into the narcissist, if you had just taken that and invested it into yourself, you would have been far better off. You would have been a lot happier. You would have built a good future for yourself. And you would have been in a good position for someone else, someone who could actually reciprocate what you're giving out, all of the time, energy, effort, money, resources that you're giving out, you could have given that out to someone who can actually reciprocate somewhat the same back to you. But instead, you were deceived by this narcissist, and they misled you. They didn't have the means, they didn't have the capability, they didn't have the feelings, the emotions to go with it. They just didn't have it. They didn't have what you had. What you had to invest into them, they didn't have that to invest into you. And that's what this really comes down to. And that's exactly what they do. And it's really sad. I mean, you just think about it. Just imagine people who, maybe they're real estate agents, they sell mansions, nice houses. You just think about people like that, and how frustrating that job must be. All the time wasters that they get. And also with luxury cars, maybe Lamborghinis. You imagine all of the people who walk through those doors and they just waste their time. Because of course they want to go into the nice houses, don't they? They want to go into the nice big mansions. They want to sit in a Lamborghini, test drive it, see what it's like. And they ain't even got the credit. They can't even pay for it. They shouldn't even be there. They shouldn't be checking out those mansions. They shouldn't be test driving those luxury cars because they haven't even got the investment for it. They can't pay for that. And it's fitting for many of these narcissists because they're so lazy. And they just have this false self. They act like they're something when they're not. And I'm sure there's a good pay for those jobs for people who are real estate agents, or they maybe they sell nice cars, these Ferrari dealerships, Lamborghinis. I'm sure there's good pay in that, but it also must be very frustrating. It is frustrating when you have a lot of value, because of course you will get customers, or people who appear to be customers, so they're coming in and they're acting like they have something to invest, as though they can afford it, when actually no, they don't have the investment to go with it. They may have the desire behind it. Maybe they want to own a nice car. They want to live in a mansion. But do they deserve it? Have they earned it? Do they deserve you? Have they earned you? And that's the thing. When they haven't even invested anything, it's so easy for them to disregard it, treat it like garbage. Just like these squatters. You know, these people who squat in people's houses, they didn't even pay for it. Or people who steal cars. You think they're gonna respect those cars or those houses when they've obtained them that way? Of course not. They're just gonna treat it like garbage. And that's what these narcissists do with you. They treat you like you're nothing. Because they know they don't deserve you. They know they didn't have to earn you. They're not investing anything into you. They don't have anything to invest. So why would they ever appreciate or respect you? And yet, that doesn't mean that these people who, let's imagine a hypothetical situation. Let's say someone robs a Ferrari and then they go off, they're doing donuts in it, they're just driving it around, just treating it like crap. Does that mean that the Ferrari that they stole suddenly isn't worth anything? It doesn't. If anything, the only possible way that it would mean that it's now not worth anything is because a thief is now driving it. That's the only possible way that it would mean that, and I spoke about that in a recent live video. And yeah, that's what it's like with these narcissists. Once they get around you, your value goes right down. They take value away from you. They do not bring value to you. They strip you of your value because they're low value, so all they can do is bring your value down. But when you're around someone of high value, and this could be in any sort of way, just as an example, this channel and these videos that I create for you, I've got over 6.5 years of research, so of course I'm high value in this profession. So I am now increasing your value in this area of understanding narcissistic abuse. So whatever it is that you're trying to build with a narcissist, whatever it is you wanted from them, a relationship, marriage, children, whatever, they're taking your value away from that because although you may be valuable for that, you may be appropriate for that position, they're not. They can't give any value towards that. So that's why they can only take value away from you. And that's really where these feelings come from. It's like before you got involved with them, you felt good, but then you get around them, and how do you feel? You feel good after dealing with them? You feel over the moon? You feel like you're living your best life after being involved with a narcissist? Of course not. Once you've been involved with a narcissist, you feel like crap. You feel a lot of fear, anxiety, depression, shame. That's exactly how it feels. Because that's exactly how they feel. So those are the emotions that they have to give to you. Are they denying themselves? They deflect it onto you. So that's how you feel after dealing with them. Because you identify with it, with the emotions that they have disowned, these parts of themselves that they have assigned to you, and you take that on and you think, oh, so that's who I am now, that's how I feel. Now I'm not worth anything, I don't feel good about myself. When actually no, it's just because you were involved with them. It's because you were around them. And if instead you weren't around them and you were around something else, something better for you, something of value, then you would get a very different feeling from it. You would feel good about yourself. Because here's the thing, doesn't matter what they said about you, doesn't matter how bad you're supposed to be, they may have called you crazy, they may have called you the narcissist. If you get around a high value person with a strong sense of self, they're going to make you feel better about yourself. They're going to improve you. They're going to improve your life. Just like you were doing for the narcissist. And that proves my point. You had more value than them, that they then stripped from you. You had a stronger sense of self, and they stole your character traits. and you improve things for them until eventually you gave them an inch and they took a mile, and then they destroyed everything. And that proves it. If you got around someone who had an equal amount of value to you and had a strong sense of self just as you do, someone who actually loved themselves for real and had self-esteem, if you got around someone like that, things would have turned out very differently for you. Things would have been a lot better. I mean, that just doesn't happen. They want you to think that. That's just crazy. It makes no logical sense. You do not get around a high-value person with a strong sense of self and self-esteem and leave worse off. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. Did it happen with you? Did that happen for the narcissist with you? No. They ended up better off. They got a lot out of you. Because that is what happens. You get around a high-value person with a strong sense of self, with self-love and self-worth. You leave better off. You leave happier. You leave feeling good. And that's just reality. That's just how it goes. And I know a lot of people have been watching my videos and they've left better off, they've left feeling good. But I gotta say, it's really not good for my view count. Because of course they watch a few videos, they feel much better. They're ready to go back out into the world. They got more confidence. And then I never hear from them again. Because then they're all good. But that's how it is. It's not always that way, but that's how it is sometimes. Is that when two high-value people do come across each other, yeah, they might build each other up in the moment. And sometimes you do go your separate ways. It doesn't mean that you stay together. And you may be left with those memories that you had. Maybe some point in the future you may come back together, who knows? But it's not always that way. Two high-value people can make it work as well. But the way that it works is that if two people in a relationship are of high value, they're likely not going to spend that much time together. And that's the truth. Because in order for them to be of a certain level of value, they're going to be spending a certain amount of time by themselves, building themselves up. And that's why if you go looking for your next partner in a nightclub, at all the parties, who likes to be around everyone all the time, you're not going to find much value there. You're better off looking for someone who likes reading books, likes studying, spending time alone. That's where you're going to find someone with a strong character. Someone who's more likely to be successful in their work life and relationships. And also someone who's more likely to take accountability for when things go wrong. Yeah, there's a lot of bugs around here. I keep getting bitten. They're quite strong bites too. It's so nice just to be out here though. Walking on the beach with no shoes. Just feeling the sand on my feet. And the water. It's so natural just to bathe in the ocean. This is why we love the look of water. You know, like the ocean, lakes. It's meant to look appealing to us for a reason. And this isn't just societal conditioning. It's always been that way because we need water to survive. And that's why when we see the water, it really stands out to us. Kind of pulls you in. Because we need water to drink. And of course our bodies are made up of 85% water, I think it is. And it's the same thing with fruits and vegetables. It's a reason why they always look so good, so colourful. Trying to turn the camera around, now it's stuck on filters. I never use filters in my live videos. I'm just trying to take it off. Okay, got it. We're back. I keep getting thrown around by all of these flies though that keep biting me. My blood is their sustenance. It's kind of like our supply for a narcissist. Your eyes, your ears, just you give them life. You validate the illusion. You make them feel like they're God, like they're perfect. At least, as long as you're willing to go along with it. And if you're not, then you're a bad object. You see, that's how it works with narcissists. there are no people. You're either a good object or you're a bad object. And this comes from childhood trauma. So with the narcissistic parent, they were never treated as a real human being. Their emotional needs were never met, and instead, it was all based on superficial things, on their performance. So, the child was either a good object or a bad object. And this is why you see these narcissists who are hyper-focused on their success, but in a superficial way, or on money. Cerebral narcissists, it could be their intelligence. Somatic narcissists, that would be their body. And these things, these are resources that are meant to make them into a good object. So now they're a good object for mummy or daddy. And that's what it's all about. That's really the nature of narcissism. It's all just about, all right, not how do I become a good object, but how do I be seen as a good object? It's, what do I have to do? And in some families, it could be more about sports. In others, it could be you got to get a good job, you got to make lots of money. It all just depends on. But then saying that, it's not all about just the parent or the family, because now, of course, we have social media as well. And sadly, these kids are on social media at a very young age. These generations. I'm actually 35 now, so we didn't have the internet until I was about 10 years old. I remember in school, we had a computer in school, and the first thing I saw of the internet was Google. Funny enough. And I'm partnered with them 25 years later. Again, now these kids are growing up with the internet and social media. So that becomes, it takes on like a parental figure in many ways. And they look to what's trending, what's popular on social media to then make themselves into a good object rather than a bad object, or rather than something that's undesirable. But they've been doing this for years. The government, society, the media, they know exactly what they're doing. And before social media, before the internet, before TikTok, before all of that, of course, there was television. We still got television now, but it's not as big as the internet. And even before television, there were magazines. There was always something, there was always some form. And as we know, narcissists are very concerned about what's trending, what's popular. So they're looking at all this stuff, and it's like, how do I become something desirable, something that will be approved of? How do I become a good object? And it works for them. I can't say that they're not successful in that, they are. If you look at narcissists today, they have a lot of friends. They really do, and many of them, they are business owners, CEOs, or they're well-respected employees at the company. Many narcissists are influencers, Instagram models. They're doing very well. But at what cost? At the expense of their authenticity. And this is why, as I've always said, I would rather be hated for who I am than loved for who I am not. And I'm not sure who it was who originally said that, but it's definitely something that rings true to me. But unfortunately, that's just how it is. That's just how it goes, is that when you remain true to yourself, when you remain authentic, that's when you're going to have the most haters. That's when everyone's going to be coming after you and telling you how fake you are. And meanwhile, you could be surrounded by a bunch of narcissists who couldn't be any more fake if they tried. And yet people will be pointing the finger at you, the only one who remained true, who remained authentic. It's crazy when you think about it, but that's how it is. I mean, there's billions of people in this world. It's such a grand scale. And yet, if you are the one who remains authentic, you remain true, they will target you. And it's not talked about much, but there is a reason for that. I mean, that's going to be the most potent supply, more than anything, is your innocence and just your authenticity, because you're a genuine human being. So you're generating your power and energy from within. So that's really the ultimate supply to a narcissist. And as we know, what else is an excellent source of supply for a narcissist? Is children. Because their brains are like sponges. They absorb. And they absorb because they're authentic. It seems that the more authentic you are, the more that you will absorb things, the more that you will adapt. But on the inside, you will still have a core, you will still remain true to yourself. Now it's 4 p.m. here. It was nice coming out here, but I think I'm going to start getting ready to go back soon. Because once you've been out here for a certain amount of time, all of the shells start to hurt your feet. And all of these bites that I'm getting from the flies. I've got all of these cuts on my legs now. So I think I'm almost ready to call it a day. It's not a bad beach. But if I'm being completely honest, I gotta say, I have seen much better beaches. And I think I did show that one. I did a live in Sri Lanka, in the eastern province. There were no tourists. It was just me on that beach. And it was just this perfect white sand and the green sea. And no seashells, my feet weren't hurting. And also the 100 islands in Pangasinan, Philippines. The beaches there were completely perfect. I couldn't fault them at all. And even the sea was quite warm. But this one, the sea is cold, even with the sun out, and it's hot. And there's so many seashells in the water. And it really hurts my feet. My feet red. But it's all a part of the experience. If everything was perfect and exactly how you wanted it to be, it would get boring very quickly. It really would. And I believe that's why we came down to this world. It's because things are more interesting. In the higher dimensions, you can just think of it, just manifest anything you want in an instant. You want a perfect beach with no seashells hurting your feet, warm water, you just manifest it. The whole point of why we came to this world is so that we do have the ups and downs, we do have more of an adventure. And yeah, that's what I've been getting. So and that's a big part of it, you know, that's a big part of the healing. That's how we really raise our consciousness, is by recognizing that, is that we came here to have a different experience to what we had in the heavens, in inverted commas, in the higher dimensions. So all of these experiences we have with narcissists, that's all a part of it. We're meant to go through these things in some way. I mean, maybe not to that extreme, but we're meant to go through the ups and downs. It's meant to be a bit of an emotional roller coaster. It's not just supposed to be everything smooth. And actually, as you may have experienced, some of you may have experienced already, if maybe you're retired, you don't work often, you could just do whatever you want to do it. It does get boring very quickly. Then it makes you want to go back to work. It makes you want to do other things. Because that's not what life is meant to be. We are meant to work, we are meant to progress. We're meant to keep getting better, never stop, never rest. The temperature does shift here dramatically though. Once the sun goes behind the clouds, just sitting in the sea. And it just feels like it's not the weather to be swimming. But overall, it has been a positive experience for me. Hey, look, it's Jesus walking on water. But how practical is that, though? It's the second coming. You know, I'm really glad I did this live today. I was just going to lay down and just relax on the sand or in the sea. But it's made it much more meaningful. I really enjoy getting on here talking to you. And now I can actually see the live chats a bit better, now that the sun has gone behind the clouds. I can't even read all of these messages from the trolls. It must be so frustrating for them. I mean, you get on here just to try and get a response from me, and I can't even see. I can't even see it. Because the sun is shining so bright. But that's just it. That's the place you got to get to with these narcissists. You got to get to a place where you can't even see them, and they can't even see you. You got to be elevating. Unfortunately, it's not the case as it was before, as I spoke about a few days ago. It's not that simple where you can just work hard, make lots of money, and then avoid all of these types of people. Like even celebrities, you can't just go and buy a house in a nice neighborhood or buy a car. You're still on the road around them and their road rage. Or even these celebrities, they buy private jets. They might avoid the passenger planes and most of the people, but then that still just gets them from A to B. So then they're still going to be in the country that they're going to, and then they're still going to be around all of the masses of people. So it's not that simple, it's not that easy to just avoid them. I tried that already. I thought if I make money, I spend money, then that's going to keep me safe. That's going to protect me from all of the bad, corrupt people. But it didn't. It didn't help. It actually made things worse. It seems like the best option these days is just to go move somewhere down in the woods. Just build a house there or live on a farm. And then you will avoid most of them. Because as we know, narcissists, as Dr. Ramani has said, they tend to be more in the cities. But she said it mostly in the cities. I would also say at holiday spots. So wherever the ideal spots for a vacation are, of course you're going to see narcissists there. I mean, just look on Instagram. That's where all of the Instagram models take their pictures, and wherever the trending holiday spots are. So that's another thing. It's not just cities. And of course, that's all of these narcissist hotspots, such as malls, beaches, probably restaurants, just anything superficial, anything where there's like a gathering of people, where they think that they can evoke some attention and admiration. That's where you're going to find most of them. But then typically if you go to places like a library, where else? Maybe a park, But actually, even parks, you may find a lot of narcissists. They go there to do their photo shoots for Instagram. But that's the mentality you've got to have. That's how you've got to think to then be able to avoid them. Try and think from the mind of a narcissist. Think of someone who's going about their life just trying to get supply. And then you can think of where they would go. I mean, of course, they're going to go wherever there's people. If there's going to be people there, they're going to be there. So most often, you're not going to find a narcissist hiking in the middle of the woods or up a mountain. Unless, of course, they're with a group of friends. And maybe they just see it as a good spot to take a photo for Instagram. So now, because of social media, we're going to see more narcissists in places where they may not have been before, such as hiking in the woods or on top of a mountain, because now that's a good photo spot for Instagram. But yeah, I know you just want to avoid them all. You just want to get away from them, I know. Because you don't want this superficial stuff, you just want a connection. You want to build relationships, friendships. You want a future. I get that. These types of narcissists, they're just going to string you along with the lies of future faking while they're exploiting you for all you're worth. That's all that they're going to do. And that's why the best thing that you can do is avoid them. But as for all of us on here, we're going to continue to support each other. We're going to continue to be there for one another, to validate each other's experiences. We're going to continue to do that. But overall, I am quite satisfied with this beach. It is aesthetically pleasing. It looks good. But honestly, I'm keeping it real. It looks better than it is than when you're actually here. And you're treading on all of these sharp shells. And then you get in the sea and it's cold. Especially for those of us who are empaths and we're quite sensitive. Then those shells feel extra sharp. And the sea feels extra cold. It took me about 10 minutes just to get in there. The cold is just so sensitive on my skin. I see someone talking about the borders. Yeah, there's a big issue now with the borders. I see it in Canada as well. And I also spoke about the UK a few weeks ago when I was in Malaysia. How 3,000 women every day in the UK are victims of violence from men. 3,000 women every day. That's what, 1.2 million women a year. Keep in mind there's only what, 15 million women in the entire United Kingdom over the age of 18. And all of these attacks of violence, it's coming from Eastern European and Asian men. And keep in mind, those 3,000 incidents of violence a day against women, that's only violence. Just imagine how many reports are of harassment. And then those are only the incidents that are reported to the police. So who knows, it could be 10, 15,000 incidents of harassment against women every day in the UK that aren't reported. Who even knows? So yeah, it's getting really bad there. It's on such a grand scale. And that's just in the UK. I mean, that should make you think that when these narcissists villainize you and they start these smear campaigns against you, just remind yourself of that 3,000 cases reported of violence against women from Eastern European and Asian men every single day, just in the UK, and just the reported incidents of violence, not harassment. And yet they villainize you out of all of those people. And are you actively committing any violence against anyone? I don't think you are. And violence, I mean, that's one thing. Just imagine how many rapes there are, just in the UK alone. And also, speaking of the charity that I'm now supporting and that you can donate to beneath this video to support victims of child sexual abuse, the last thing I've seen in the UK, there's meant to be over 600,000 unsolved cases of child sexual abuse in the UK. And in the US, I can't remember what it is, something like 800,000 children go missing every year or something in the US, and they're never found. You got to think about all of these things. When you're being villainized by a narcissist and they're creating this narrative about you, and they're starting these smear campaigns against you, think about all of these monsters in the world. And actually, just think about what they're doing to you. Remind yourself of all of the things that they've done to you. And has anything been done about that? And yet, they're victimizing you. That's how you know that it's all fake. And that you have just, you've exposed them or threatened to expose them. You've caused a narcissistic injury. And now they want to stop you, because they want to continue this false reality. So that's what that really is. That's the real truth. But I gotta say, these smear campaigns, the isolation, the villainization, if that's even a word, it's a blessing in disguise. It may feel like the worst thing in the world initially when you're going through it, but it is actually a blessing. They are actually doing you a favor. And I'm living proof of that, because there was a time when for many years I was just living in a little apartment in Swansea, the UK, doing the same thing every day. Just going to the gym, going shopping, playing on my Xbox every day. The same thing every day for years. And that was my life. And then because of the smear campaign, it pushed me to create this channel on YouTube. And now I've traveled to so many countries around the world. I've had so many experiences. I've built a strong character within myself, when back then I didn't really know who I was. So it's changed everything for me. And it will change everything for you. Let them continue in this delusional fantasy of their idealized false self, thinking they're so grandiose, thinking they're so great. Let them think that way, because then they will keep the problem out of your life, and then things can get better for you. Because I can tell you, anyone who idealizes themselves, anyone with a false self, they're no good for you. What you want is people who take accountability, people who listen to you, people who are responsible. You can build things with those types of people, but not with these narcs, not with these flying monkeys. Let them think that they're so great. Let them get on with that, and you do the work, you focus on yourself. And then be very careful, because then they will come back, they will hoover you, just to try and sabotage it all. Because of course, while they were out just sleeping around, getting drunk, wasting their life, you actually did the work, you focused on yourself, and now you're much further ahead than they are. And all they've got is just a fantasy, a delusion. So of course they will hoover you to sabotage you. It feels so nice just to put my feet in the sand. It reminds me of when I was a child. It's a very grounding exercise as well, because when you're around narcissists, you're constantly living outside of yourself. So you have to detach from the awareness of your mind and body in order to simulate this connection or attachment with a narcissist, because they don't actually exist. They're not in reality. So you have to disconnect from yourself. And that's why the best way to ground yourself is to use touch and ground yourself with the sand on the beach. You can also smell coffee, just anything to wake up your senses and to connect you back to yourself. And that's how you know you're not dealing with a real person, is that in order to simulate a connection or an attachment to them, you have to disassociate. You have to disconnect from yourself. Now, how does that make any sense if it's real? It doesn't. You should be able to connect to yourself and connect to them, but you can't. Because they have a grandiose fantasy that has no basis in reality. But if people connect to you, things will get better for them. Because you're grounded in reality. You actually have a true self. It's just you can't connect to that when you're around a narcissist. And I think that's what people really like about these videos, is that when we expose the truth and we validate people, naturally it's going to connect you back to yourself. You're going to become more self-aware, more self-conscious. Because I'm just giving you the truth about your situation, the real truth. And it's not fabricated, it's not falsehoods. And that's what we really need, is radical acceptance. And another thing that you will notice, I experience this all the time myself, is that when you're trying to simulate this connection or attachment to a narcissist, This is how you can detect as an empath if what you're dealing with is genuine or not. If it's genuine and you just you take your hand and you stroke the side of your face, you're not going to feel so sensitive. The reason why it feels so sensitive to you after interacting with them is because you had to disconnect from yourself in order to continue that interaction. That's why. Now, if you're having a genuine interaction with someone who actually has a true character, they actually exist, and then you take your hand and you stroke your face, it's not going to feel so sensitive. It's not. I haven't seen anyone talk about these things, but I notice this every time from my own experiences. I'm sure many of you have experienced this as well. The case with the loss of the self-awareness, the consciousness, and maybe the feeling of touch as well. It becomes more sensitive to you. But also maybe it's to move you into the right direction, because of course when you're around someone who leaves you to become more sensitive, but then at the same time they leave you feeling numb, that could also push you into the right direction with someone who makes you feel the opposite of that. So it kind of sets you up for something better afterwards. It's kind of like the sunshine after the storm. And if there's one thing that's good that you get out of dealing with a narcissist, that would be it. It's the sunshine or the rainbow that comes after the storm. So that's one thing to look forward to. But of course, keep in mind, they will try to take that away from you as well. They don't have anything, so they don't want you to have anything. But this time of day, it looks like it's starting to get busy. Got all of these people here. I actually walked all of this way from this beach about 30 minutes back down there, solely because it was quite peaceful here when I first got here. But that's the thing, I mean, wherever I go, I can climb to the top of the mountain, I can go to the middle of the woods, it's not going to make a difference. My energy, people will gravitate towards it wherever I go. But I mean, that's a good sign as well. If people are gravitating towards your energy, it's probably a bad sign if you're of high energy, high consciousness, and people are going in the opposite direction. I mean, what does that say about everyone? But then also, you may want to run away from them because their consciousness is too low. It's difficult for me to read the live chat with the sun shining like this. But I do appreciate it being nice and bright. But yeah, I had a lot of fun talking with you on this video here at this beach in Bali. It's been a great day with you. You really made my day much brighter. So I thank you for that. And I hope that you have found this information beneficial to you as well. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up down below and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hit that subscribe button and click all notifications so that you will be notified when I go live again in the future. Donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. And you can donate to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. If you'd like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. And also, you can follow me on Instagram. I posted a reel of the tallest seated Buddha in the whole of Southeast Asia. You can see that on my Instagram and so much more. Follow me. It is Narc Survivor YouTube. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. And I will talk to you in another live video very soon.